Calgary's detached market is actually tightening right now with less than 2 months of supply in most parts of the city. But if you're looking at condos, you're in a completely different market. Nearly 5 months of supply, prices down 9% year over year. Same city, completely different story depending on what you're buying. So what's actually happening in Calgary right now? It depends entirely on what you're buying, and that's what most people miss. This month, I'm going to break down the numbers. I'm going to tell you what they actually mean and give you my honest take on where this is heading. Let's get into it. Here's a quick snapshot from Krebs' March 2026 numbers. The overall benchmark price across all property types in Calgary is sitting around $565,000. That's up about 1% from February, but down about 4% from where we were a year ago. So on the surface, it looks like a softening market, but that headline number is doing a lot of averaging across very different situations. And that's what I want to dig into. Total sales in March came in at about 1,881 homes. That's up from February, as we'd expect heading into spring, but still about 13% below where we were this time last year. New listings were up too, which is keeping the overall market elevated. The important thing to understand though is that this market is not a one-sided market. It's 2 or 3 very different markets stacked on top of each other depending on the property type. And if you're a buyer, knowing which one you're in changes everything. If you're in the market for a detached home in Calgary, here's what actually matters. Supply is tight. Across most districts in the city, there's less than 2 months of detached supply. The Northwest, West, South, Southeast, and the East districts are all sitting below that 2-month mark. That means detached sellers in most parts of Calgary still have the upper hand. The detached benchmark price is sitting at around $741,000, down about 3% from last year's peak, but up from where it was in February. And in the districts with the tightest supply, prices are actually moving up. So if you're waiting for detached prices to fall significantly, the data doesn't support that happening in most parts of the city right now. And this is where most people get this completely wrong. They see the headline benchmark price and assume the whole market is softening, but the softening is almost entirely concentrated in condos and apartments. And if that's your segment, the story is very different. There's over 1,800 apartment-style condos sitting in inventory right now, closest to the highest level since the financial crisis in 2008. The sales to new listings ratio is hovering around 40%, which means that supply is comfortably outpacing demand. There's nearly 5 months of condo supply. The benchmark price for apartment-style condos is $300,000, down more than 9% from a year ago, and prices have continued to slide through the first quarter of 2026. If you're a condo buyer, this is genuinely a buyer's market right now. You have negotiating power that you didn't have 12 to 18 months ago. One district worth noting from the data is the Northeast, which is showing the highest level of supply relative to the demand of any area of the city right now. I'm not going to pretend that the Northeast is on my client's short list because it usually isn't, but the data point is relative for a reason. It tells you something about where the pressure in the market is concentrated. The softness in the Northeast is pulling the overall city numbers down, which means that the communities my clients are actually focused on, areas like the Southeast, the Northwest, the Southwest, they're all holding up better than the headline figures suggest. So if you're looking at communities maybe like a Mahogany or a Tuscany or a West Springs, and you're wondering whether the broad market is softening in those areas, the honest answer is mostly no. I work with a lot of professionals in Calgary and moving to Calgary, and this is the exact situation that they're walking into right now. So let me give you a practical read with what to do with this information. If your plan is to buy a detached home in some of the communities I chat about, areas like Mahogany, Tuscany, West Springs, Aspen, just understand that you're buying into a relatively tight market. There's not a lot of room for lowball offers in these areas. Good homes in good communities are still moving relatively fast. So get your financing in order and come prepared. But if you're open to buying a condo or a townhome as an entry point, or if you're looking into, say, an investment property in Calgary, the current market is giving you something that you haven't seen in a while: real negotiating leverage. Prices are down significantly year over year in the condo segment, and the supply is high. That's an opportunity worth paying attention to, especially if your long-term plan is eventually to move into a detached home and you want something to get you into the market first. And if you're still in the research phase, now is genuinely a good time to get serious about understanding your options. The spring market is starting to pick up. The window where you have the most leverage and the least competition is typically before that spring momentum fully kicks in. If I had to make a call right now based on what we're seeing now, here's where I think this goes. The detached market in Calgary is likely to stay relatively firm throughout spring. There just isn't enough supply in most districts to see a meaningful price drop, and demand from buyers relocating here from Ontario and BC has been fairly steady. I don't see a dramatic correction in detached prices. The condo market is a lot more uncertain. Supply is at near record levels, and there's no obvious catalyst that turns that around quickly. New completions are still coming through the pipeline. I think condo prices stay under pressure for at least the next couple of quarters. And if you're a condo seller, pricing realistically is more important right now than it's been in years. The overall theme of this market is differentiation. You can't talk about Calgary real estate as one thing right now. You have to know which segment you're in and act accordingly. That's what I help my clients do. So bottom line, detached is still tight in most areas of the city. Condos are in a buyer's market, and the opportunity depends entirely on what you're buying and where. If you want to understand specifically how this market affects your move to Calgary, whether you're buying detached, looking at a condo, or trying to figure out which communities have the most opportunity right now, that's exactly the conversation I have with my clients every week. Book a free call through the Calendly link in the description, and let's map it out. I'll see you next month in the May update.